When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, as always, Colleen Biggs, and we have another really special guest today. Y'all know that I am a black belt in Taekwondo, a first-degree black belt. I religiously work out. I've gone through every kind of different workouts you can ever imagine, from aerobics way back in the 80s and 90s to step aerobics to CrossFit to boot camps to all the fads that have come out. I ran for many, many, many years, half marathons and marathons, and really got into Taekwondo. So healthy habits is something that I'm kind of made fun of in my family because of the way I eat and the habits that I have. But, you know, as they're getting older now, my children are coming to my husband and I as they talk more about their health, because they've really realized as they've gotten into their 30s that they can't continue to eat the crap that they've done for years. So things are turning around as they're becoming older adults. And Valerie LaVigne is here today to talk to us all about what healthy habits mean to her and what her background is and how she's assisting her clients. If you are a human, you need to hear this podcast episode, because your body is a temple and it will not last forever. So you need to treat it really, really, really good if you're looking for longevity in your life. And before we get to talking with Valerie and diving into healthy habits, I want to thank today's sponsor of today's show, Peaceful Living. Why do we allow stress to compound in our lives, affecting our sleep and our daily rituals? How timely is our sponsor today? The truth is, we all live with stress, but imagine what it would feel like to not suffer from stress. Are you ready to feel better, sleep better, and change your overall relationship with tension? Peaceful Living can help you bring more peaceful moments into your day. Peaceful Living offers simple tools, live streams, and on-demand classes, and customized self-care success plans. Imagine if you had a simple way to slow down and restore your energy without taking big chunks of time away from your schedule. We know it's possible. We're here to help, and the founder, Roberta Hughes, will be your guide each step of the way. Visit Peaceful Living at Peaceful Living online to begin your journey with a free membership. Use code LEAP to receive your first month for free. Thank you, Peaceful Living, for being the sponsor of today's show. And now I'm excited to welcome Valerie. She helps women who are making an impact live a life by design. How perfect is that for our show, ladies and gentlemen? Not by default. This is what we talk about. Using the power tools of healthy habits, Valerie educates and empowers women to prioritize their own health and wellness so they can feel great in their body and show up powerfully for the people depending on them. Valerie, welcome to today's show. I am super excited for us to get started today.
I am so excited too. Thank you so much for having me, Colleen. As you can imagine, this is probably one of my favorite topics. So we're going to keep this to just the most juicy, most important information and takeaways that the listener can use today. So I'm very, very excited to speak with you.
Yeah. You know, when people think healthy habits, what is the number one thing that you would say that everybody gravitates to, Valerie?
That's a great question. I feel like a lot of people think that healthy habits have to be very strict and very disciplined, and they feel like they have to stick to something very the same every single day. And I think that deters a lot of people. I know for me, I was not always a believer in healthy habits. I was not someone who cared for discipline, and it was a pretty big journey for me to get here to where I am today. But what I do find is that when you really understand the power of healthy habits, you start to recognize that, oh, it's more than just ticking off the box and checking off the box and doing the next thing and being the same every single day. There's actually so much freedom when you have these healthy habits. You mentioned that you are made fun of in your family for your healthy habits, but the people are coming to you now because they probably see that you have this energy and you have this incredible business and brand that you've built, and you are able to support so many people and do so many things. But it's not because you just wake up and be awesome. Obviously, you wake up and be awesome, but it's because of the healthy habits that support you to be that way. And so, I think the first thing that people think of is, oh, healthy habits are boring, they're not for me. But that's really not the case. They're actually part of our life, whether we realize it or not. And whether they're healthy or not, habits are always going to be there. So that's why I help you live a life by design and not by default. Because the thing is that no matter what, you have habits, and your habits are either going to really help you or they could possibly hurt you in the long run. So I think if you look back at maybe the last 5 years of your life and you look at all the things that you've done every single day for those last 5 years, they've brought you to where you are today. Well, you have the power right now, you have the opportunity right now to change some of those things so that in the next 5 years, you are where you want to be and living the life that you want to be in.
Yeah, you said you took a long journey to get here. So I think that's it's really important to mention, because most people think when if they meet you or they meet me, they automatically are going to think, Valerie, like, yeah, but you're just that way. It's like, no. Let me tell you who I used to be, right? I had a talk with my clients the other day, and we were talking about stress and choice. And I said, I could get upset. My husband doesn't take out the garbage, or he says he's going to do these things and he doesn't do them. And then I've just realized over the years, like if I was back like way younger, when I was super stressed out and uptight all the time, everything bothered me. It was like, yeah, I'd probably get upset about or get mad and ruin my day, but it was all by choice. And she was talking about her party, and I said, I've been married a couple of times. I'm just going to tell you right now, like, men just don't look at those details. They just don't. And you're better off just not letting it bother you. She's like, how do you do that? So I literally was teaching her like how I do it, because I want my relationship with my husband to be happy and joyful, and my choice and my design for that relationship, which I would call a healthy habit. One of my healthy habits is to recognize something, but not let it bother me, and just kind of move on from it, because it's not important enough for it to damage my day. Like I get to choose what's stressful or what bothers me or what's going to throw me off my course. That's a different type of healthy habit that we don't talk about a lot, right? So most people, I think, healthy habits, food, exercise, they go right to restrictive eating and exercising all the time. And they're like, I could never live a life like that. But you said you've been on a long journey, so I'm sure there's a lot of self-discovery that came along that journey too. So Valerie, why don't you, my listeners love stories. So let's share Valerie's story.
All right. Well, from a young age, I knew I was very unique, very different. It was very important to me to do things in my own way and to be my own person. And part of my journey into that self-exploration and development was rebellion. But I was like this rebel without a cause. In a nutshell, if everyone else was doing something, I didn't want to do it. If I was supposed to, I'm doing air quotes, if I was supposed to do something, I wanted to do the exact opposite of it. So there were a lot of pros and cons to this, what I'm going to call my attitude at the time. There's a lot of pros and cons to it. And some of those pros were that I was taking big leaps. I was starting my own business. I was buying a one-way ticket to Guatemala and traveling solo completely by myself. I was learning new languages and meeting new people and really having these incredible experiences that I probably wouldn't have had. Well, I definitely know that I wouldn't have had if I had stuck to that status quo, checked the boxes of whatever everybody else was doing. Now, some of the cons of this attitude were that I really lacked meaningful goals. I lacked direction. And although I was living this really free-spirited, carefree life, every day was lovely, at the end of the year, I was like, well, yeah, I've accomplished things, but where do I go next? And there was never really this path. And unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, we all have habits regardless of whether we realize them or not. And unfortunately, without intention, without meaning, you can get to places where you're like, how on earth did I even get here? Why am I not where I want to be? And it's typically because we didn't ask ourselves those questions earlier. So one of the resistances that I had when I had this attitude was for a schedule and for routine and for habits. I just wanted nothing to do with it because I believed that discipline was a really bad thing and I avoided it. And anytime someone tried to tell me that I had to do something or be put in a certain box, I was like, nope, discipline is not for me. But eventually, through this journey, I realized that discipline actually equals freedom. And freedom is what I've wanted this whole time, that uniqueness, that doing my own thing. Freedom was what I should have labeled it early on. And freedom was really what I was craving. So during that realization, I began to experiment with different habits and try different things. And I told myself, I'm just going to try it. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, then you know what? I tried it and I can say, pish posh, I did what you wanted me to do and it didn't work, or whatever the case may be. So what happened here was that I created a handful of habits that led me to pretty much where I am today. And they've led me to this life of freedom, of passion, of purpose. So part of what I do now is support women in creating meaningful habits, creating that intention behind the actions they're taking. And we're breaking down goals into teeny tiny little steps that really get us to that place of being able to create impact and be able to live this life of freedom on your own terms. And I'm really glad you brought up your relationship, because this is a huge part of habits that people don't really think about.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot about the work that we do for ourselves, it either trickles into our relationships with others, or it helps us just be better partners, be better mothers, be better leaders, be better friends, and so on and so forth. So yeah, absolutely. You bringing awareness to parts of your relationship or the things that used to really bother you, that habit of just, okay, I'm being aware of this is bothering me. But you know what? Is this worth me getting upset over? Is this worth, a little, is this worth me pulling the thread in this relationship? No, he didn't take out the garbage. So what?
I know.
Moving on. You know what I mean?
He didn't get upset because the dishes weren't done. Like, you know what I mean? It's so funny how that happens. I think of that old saying, happy wife, happy life. And today families look so different than they did back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe someone doesn't have a wife or doesn't have a spouse or has a partner, or I was a single mother for a long time. So families are very different looking today than they've looked in the past, the traditional family. So the healthy habits, I think what I heard you say, Valerie, was it took time for you to really kind of look in and decide that you wanted to choose to be happy and choose to live a life that you desired. How does someone get to that point? I feel like there could be some people listening that aren't happy and they don't know why they're not happy. It's kind of like I said, that old saying, happy wife, happy life. That just is a key trigger for us to think when someone's happy, they treat other people around them, really, really well. Wouldn't you say? When someone's unhappy, they are reacting to the things around them. So what happened through your journey? Did you have to hire someone to work with? Did you go to certain classes? Was there something that you uncovered or discovered? Did you move somewhere and realize, that you needed to free yourself of something? Did you shift a job? What happened that you really decided there was an unhappiness existing somewhere and you weren't happy with who Valerie was at the moment, and you knew you had the power to change that, and you didn't have to wait for an outside influence to do that for you?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So for myself, I was a yoga and bar teacher. So I was teaching all these different classes. I was working at maybe 4 or 5 different studios, driving around. And, when you first own your own business, you think, oh yeah, this is the best thing ever. This is the freedom. This is my passion, which it was at the time, but it wasn't the schedule freedom. It wasn't the time freedom that I really wanted. And so that helped me. Being in that situation really helped me define what freedom meant for me. And it wasn't running around to 5 different studios almost every day of the week, teaching multiple classes a day at all these studios. And I was so caught up in this hustle culture and this hustle mode of thinking that, I needed to make a certain amount of money so that I could move on to this next phase. And I had to push and do more and more and more. And what that led me to was a part of my relationship at the time with my romantic partner, where they decided to they'd made a decision for themselves that was completely news to me and surprise to me. And it was like so separate for me. And I thought, you just made a life-changing decision without even considering me. I can't believe this happened. And so I was like, am I so caught up in my job that I didn't recognize this? Is this just not the right person? Like, there was so much going through my mind. It was like, what just happened? So it shook me a little bit, and it brought me to this moment of like, okay, what am I actually doing in my life right now? Do I actually want to be teaching at 5 studios? Do I actually want to be teaching from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. every day with like a break in between that I go to the gym and I eat my protein shake and whatever the case may be? And so I decided that, in this romantic partnership, if my partner was going to make a decision for himself, completely not considering me, I'm just going to make a decision for myself. I was like, you know what? That's okay, because I'm going to do something for me. And so I bought this one-way ticket to Guatemala. And I'm telling you, I don't know why I did this. I was meditating one morning and I just was like, I heard this voice. I know I sound crazy. Buy the ticket. And so I did. I bought this ticket to Guatemala. I didn't really even know where Guatemala was at the time, which it's just south of Mexico, for anyone wondering. I spoke no Spanish, but I went there. I had 1 week planned. I was going to live with a family in Guatemala, and I was going to take Spanish lessons in the morning and then explore the town in the afternoon for 1 whole week. And that's it. And I didn't have a return ticket yet. I was just going to go with the flow. I was going to figure it out because I was this free spirit, living day to day, doing things for me. And this was a big leap, obviously. We talk about big leaps on this show. And this was a completely wild card for me to do. This was like the most crazy thing. So I ended up being solo traveling for about 7 months through Central America and Mexico. So I went to countries like Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, all by myself. And I eventually learned Spanish. I met all these incredible people. I became an advanced scuba diver. I learned how to surf. Like, I just did the coolest stuff. And even though I do not regret a single day of that trip, not even the one time where I got food poisoning, but what I did realize by the end of those 7 months was I'm not grounded. I have nothing to center myself with. I have no idea where I'm going next. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I can't keep doing this, even though I'm really enjoying this travel. This isn't sustainable for me long term. And even though, again, I'm feeling this freedom, this time freedom, this schedule freedom in a different way, how can I balance my Pilates career, my passion for supporting people in their health and wellness with my passion for traveling and exploring and meeting different people? And so during this trip, I was able to do so many things. And one of those things was to create the Women's Empowerment blog, which was something that really helped me connect to my story, but also the story of the women that I was meeting on these travels. And I took that blog home with me, and it's now actually evolved into the Women's Empowerment podcast. And Colleen, you are a guest on this podcast. I'm so excited for your story to be live. And so this was a really cool experience. But what I realized when I came home was that I didn't have to buy a one-way ticket to Guatemala. I didn't have to stop my life for 7 months and break up with the guy and leave my family and quit my job. I didn't have to do any of those things to experience the transformation and the realization that I did. Again, Don't regret it. Really glad that I did it. But I know that not everybody has just 7 months to get up and go and leave their mortgage and leave their kids and say, love you so much, but I'll
Peace
see you
out.
when I feel ready. Yeah. So obviously at the time I had that opportunity, and I'm so glad that I had lots of support for that. But what I did realize was that with the right intention, with the right meaning and purpose behind the things that I was doing, that's when I could really create this life by design. And so that's when the habits and the discipline came in, because what I was doing was I was choosing, just like you said, I was deciding how I want to feel every morning, how I want to impact the world, what difference do I want to make? And so basically anything that was in line or aligned with how I wanted to feel was a yes. We were doing the things. Anything that wasn't part of that feeling of freedom or helping people or health, I didn't have any part of. So I left a job opportunity in the travel industry, which I thought I really wanted to do, because I recognized, or I realized through my experience with working for travel companies, it's a very party heavy, very alcohol heavy environment a lot of the time. And I was like, no, this doesn't align with my health and wellness. I'm turning down a pretty cool dream job, but I also have a new dream job that I love. So again, all of these little, some of them small, some of them big, all these different things that I've been able to do and create over the last, I guess now 10 years, have really helped me get to where I am today. And it was these choices, and through some hardships for sure. I'm not going to say those 7 months were the easiest 7 months of my life. It's very hard to communicate with people when you don't speak the same language, but you do figure it out. And so, as I said, you don't need to do the crazy transformation. You can take those small steps every single day that will lead you to this more fulfilling, more purposeful life.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There needs to be pauses, right? Specific pauses. And those pauses are good because when we pause, whether it's taking a vacation or taking a step back, I've had a lot of clients that have really felt that they, wanted to grow a business and wanted to start a business, and they hire me to, help them do the numbers and start creating and generating income. And they are, and then they realize, wait, I don't even know if I want this. And then now they're kind of stuck between the world that they were in and what they used to do and what they're doing now. And they feel like they've lost themselves somewhere in there. And so most of them, I always recommend taking a pause, and it does not have to be very long. It can be 2 weeks of shutting down your schedule and going to lunch with some friends, helping a friend move, spending ample time with your partner or spouse, spending time with your family. It could be anything, going on vacation. Just the pause gives them a chance to breathe from their responsibilities, I think is the right word. Kind of gave you a chance to breathe, Valerie, from the responsibility, to kind of clear your head to say, what is it that I really want? What is it that I stand for, that I want to do? What lights me up? What are the things that I miss by taking a pause? What are the things that I want to do more of that I realize taking this pause? And so the beautiful part that I heard you say was, in all of that, we get to design our lives exactly the way we want it. And this has been coming up a lot lately with a lot of individuals that I've been speaking to. We get to choose how we react, how we feel, how we approach others, how our day is going to go. I don't wake up every day feeling awesome. I was tired this morning, and I don't know why. I went to bed at my normal time, but my body was a little bit more tired this morning. I told my husband I felt a little weaker this morning. I couldn't figure out why. Maybe my body needs a little bit more nutrition today, earlier than what my usual is, right? But I'm sharing that because every day when we wake up, we have to choose to create the motivation, the energy, the mindset, the everything it takes for the day. And we can choose to approach that day in a really great attitude, or we can approach that day really crappy. And I don't know if everyone realizes that they have the permission to change all of that. Do you find that the women that hire you, Valerie, they're just somewhere struggling, lost? Like, it's a confusion for them. There's not clarity. They aren't sure what to do. They're unhappy. They don't know why. And then I'm sure there are specific steps that you start taking them through to uncovering this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel lately, especially a lot of the women that have reached out to me are kind of at this breaking point. They're like, I
Yeah.
just don't know what else to do. And something that came up when you were talking about the happy wife, happy life is that I think when you hear that, or when a lot of people hear that, they think, oh, if other people make me happy, I'm the wife.
Mhm.
If other people make me happy, then their life
Crazy.
will be happy. But actually, it's not about anybody else at all. It's always going to be about us because this is what we control. We can control our emotions. We can control how we respond to things, how we react to things. And of course, things are going to come up, right? Like we're surprised. We're like, oh, okay, that was a surprise. Give me a moment to pause,
Yeah.
even just for this minute to really think about, okay, how do I want to respond right now? Where are we going with this? Or like maybe you can say to your partner or to your friends, hey, this came at a little bit of a surprise for me. I'm going to need to take a minute before I respond to this or before I reply to this email or whatever it is. So, unfortunately, a lot of us wait until this breaking point. And another thing is that a lot of us think that it's up to other people to make us happy. Well, if they
Mhm.
just took out the garbage, if they just did the thing that I asked them to do, if they just listened to me more. But how many of us are actually communicating to the people around us? This is what I need. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm struggling with. This is where I need help.
Mhm.
Not a lot of us are doing that. And so when women are reaching out to me and saying, I don't know what to do, I'm overwhelmed, my job is, I feel like I'm drowning in my job, we do exactly what you said. We take a pause
Mhm.
and we create the intention. We create, okay, how do you want to feel? Because that's how almost every single workshop or training or conversation that I have with clients starts with. Okay, that's great. We know how you don't want to feel, but how do you want to feel?
Mhm.
Because once we have that anchor, once we have that foundation of how they want to feel, we start to pull from past experiences, from maybe future dreams, from goals of what that feeling would really feel like, what that would look like, what it would sound like and smell like and taste like. What would it really feel like to be in that moment or in that feeling of strength or freedom or purpose?
Mhm.
And so once we start to get, like you said, the clarity on that, that's really where things start to shift. Because now that you have that clarity, you can take that clarity into your day and that awareness and make the choices, make those decisions based off of how you want to feel.
Mhm.
And it's not easy and it doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen over time. And a lot of it still to this day is very much an experiment. I said I started my journey, well, part of my journey had an experiment in it. We continue to do that because not every person is the same. Not every habit is the same for each person. Some of my habits were really easy to create, and some of them took a little bit more time. But
Mhm.
with that experimentation, with all the tools that I have in my tool belt, I can save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration and overwhelm because I can kind of pull and already see a little bit about what's working and what's not working. And sometimes it helps to have those fresh eyes. As you know, as a business coach, you're like, okay, I've done this for a long time. I know what's going to work and let's try this out. But can we also tweak this here? And so that's part of how I help people with their habits as well as we do a little bit of tweaking, some tracking, some experimentation, and you're on your way.
And I know you've taken huge leaps, your one-way ticket to Guatemala, you bought a brick and mortar in the middle of pandemic. Like who does that when it's shut down? You cannot go into the Pilates store, when it's the business, when it's shut down. You've taken some really big leaps. And I think trusting ourselves and taking leaps of faith when we don't know exactly how we're going to land, but trusting that everything is going to work out, believing in ourselves and having faith. You're right. We can't love anyone beyond the capacity that we love ourselves. So I'm going to ask every listener, do you fully love yourself? Are you joyful? Are you happy? Are you where you want to be? Do you know you are exactly where you need to be? If you are struggling with overwhelm and not feeling that way, Valerie is definitely the one who's going to help impact your life by helping you create it by design. So, Valerie, I know the listeners are like, okay, great. Colleen, tell me where I find this girl. I want to find her. Where is she? Is she on social media? Where do I find her?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I am available pretty much any social media platform at LaVigne Life. And my website, where you can find all the good things, is ValerieLaVigneLife.com. And that includes my podcast is on my website, and on my Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all the things, which is Women's Empowerment Podcast.
Yeah. Go ahead and subscribe to Women Empowerment Podcast on Apple or Google or whatever you use out there, Spotify, for you to be able to get that. She's got a Build Better Habits guide as well that you'll be able to find at ValerieLaVigneLife.com /habits. So you can also download that guide. Follow her on YouTube and subscribe. I love YouTube because they're going to get a lot of videos of you and you teaching and talking with other people and all the things that you do on YouTube. So these are ways that we can add adding podcasts, adding YouTube videos, all of these things, free guides that you can download. All of these things are going to be tools to help you build that better life. Because, not everybody is always ready to work with someone directly. Maybe they're nervous or scared, or, they're not ready to invest in that. So at least starting with getting guides and following individuals and podcasts. So definitely subscribe to her podcast, subscribe to her YouTube, and start following her in those areas. And Valerie, I just want to thank you for doing what you do, because it's totally along the lines of really what I feel called to do as well, in empowering women to really be proud, empowering women to be financially independent, and empowering women to be confident. And that's what empowerment is. Empowerment is the permission that you give yourself to know that you can do it, right? You're empowered to do it. And that takes work every single day. Every single day, it takes work to stay and feel empowered. So get those people in your life along the way that need to be there, because they're going to make a huge difference for you. And, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. You have a finite time of, on this earth to create these healthy habits in all areas of your life for you to live that life by design. So Valerie, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for being a guest on Take the Leap. And we're excited that our guests now have access to you, to your podcast, to your YouTube, to more tools for them to design healthy habits.
Thank you so much, Colleen. This has been amazing.
All right, listeners, until next time, remember, be you and be strong. Until then, bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery, where you learned the tools to create a life by design. Remember, you are the only you there is, and you are the only you that will ever be. Be you and be strong, because you are brilliant, and the world needs you at your best. We cannot wait for you to join us again next time.